Puerto Rico, a la familia Fontanet, allá en Cupe Alto y lo Mejía en Vega Baja. ¡Que gocen! ¡Sí!
Bomba, bomba, para siempre.
Bomba, bomba está presente, aquí lo canta mi gente.
Bomba, bomba, para siempre.
Baila, baila y goza, mi bomba puertorriqueña.
Bomba, bomba.
this archaeology?
Get out of there, Dan!
All right. Hello, everyone. We're back. It's been a
Hey,
week.
how's it going?
A weird week. Like, did you know that when you buy a TV these
Yeah?
days, you don't have to it's not just about the TV picture, you also have to worry about the OS it's operating? Yeah, like I went down to Best Buy.
Yeah?
It's a long, for people at home who are wondering what we're talking about, my TV died. And so I really wanted a smart TV. And
Mm-hmm.
when I went out to look for smart TVs, I was very confused and almost bought one from Best Buy. And I am glad I didn't. Because apparently the cheapest TVs,
Yeah.
which were the ones I wanted, were all Amazon Alexa, and I'm like, I don't want that. Oh my god,
Yeah, you
that's
just
the
need like a
other
Roku
thing,
TV or something.
because with Roku TVs, if you lose the remote, the TV is effectively dead.
Well, kind of. Actually, they have pretty good apps that you can turn the TV on off
Oh, well,
with,
the thing
and you
is
can do
that
all
I
kinds of
wanted
stuff through the
something that
app.
worked with my native
So-
Android apps with the Chromecast button. So, and
Mhm.
it's surprisingly hard
Yeah,
to find an
yeah.
Android TV, but I found one, and it was surprisingly cheaper than everything else I was looking at, so it should be here tomorrow-ish. Yeah. Also,
Well,
my
there you
god,
go.
Pete.
There you
Oh,
go.
go ahead.
Yeah. Well, hey, I was just gonna
Oh,
say
yeah,
another
we put
news.
that
We're in
in
Canada.
the intro description. If
Yeah,
anyone ever reads those.
yeah. Yeah, no, this is our first time in Canada. Well, since the pandemic, of course. And I think the last time was the Vancouver Society
Oh.
for American Archaeology conference, which, geez, I don't even know when that
Yeah.
was. It was a couple years before the pandemic, though. And yeah, so pretty easy. We were a little concerned about crossing the border in the RV because we'd heard, some people say that it could be an experience, and some people say it was super easy. And for us, it was pretty easy. It took about 45 minutes because it was a little busy, but once we got up to the gate, it was like 5 minutes of questions, and he just let us on through. He was, interestingly, the guy was very surprised, I think, because he just kept asking. He's like, "Do you have any firearms on board?" Well, actually, the way he phrased the question was, "Where are your firearms on board?" And I was like, "We don't have any." He's like, "You don't have anything in the car either?" I was like, "No, we don't." He's like, "So you don't have any ammunition or anything that looks like a holster or anything like that if I were to look?" And I was like, "No, we have no firearms." And I literally told him, I was like, "I know this sounds surprising with us being Americans and all, but
And
we
was he
actually
like,
don't own
Are
guns."
those real American passports, or are you actually Canadians trying to come home?
Yeah, right. Exactly. So it was funny though how he just kept pressing me on it. He just like
I
couldn't
mean,
believe we
he
didn't have
should.
guns.
I mean,
It was
considering,
crazy.
we both live in Nevada, and I'm always
Yeah.
surprised that I'm always surprised at how militant some
Yeah.
people are about things.
I know. And when we come back into the country in a month, we are coming back down in basically middle of nowhere, Montana, and it's going to be a tiny little border crossing. And I'm pretty sure we'll be issued a gun when we come into the country at that point, if we don't already have one. It's like, "Oh, you're coming into Montana. Here's your firearm." So
Hang on, let me click that
Yeah.
up.
but anyway, yeah, it's fun up here. We're at a campground off a lake, and the lake is basically
really?
like mini Lake Tahoe. It's like a resort lake. Yeah, there's resorts all over the place. Not resorts, but there's camping all over the place, and there's like one or two hotels, I think, but nothing big. But it's just a recreation area. There are a few residents here, but it's more people camping and staying here.
Ooh.
And it's just, we had no idea it was
my
kind of
God.
like that, and
That's like
it's
where I
really
was
cool.
working until
So
this week.
yeah,
What's
Yeah.
interesting is
Yeah,
that oh
indeed.
my god, being there,
So
I feel like I mentioned this last time, but I saw a whole bunch of electric bikes, and it has spurred me to start looking into electric bicycles, even though I saw something yesterday that did make me look twice. Basically, I was like riding
Mhm.
by, I was like riding along the Truckee, near that fancy rolled ice cream place, and I round the corner,
Mhm.
and there's like a senior couple on their electric bicycles, and one of them apparently is so infirm that her husband has to help her get onto and off of the bicycle, and I'm like, huh, yeah, and I'm like, huh, That
Oh,
does not
jeez.
improve my view of electric bicycles, even though I still want one. Especially in
I mean, I don't think that's an electric. I don't think it's an electric bike thing. I think that's the bike is too big for that person or something. I mean, it's just you got to get the right bike for the right size. I mean, they
some
still
of them,
come
they
in
don't come
multiple
as many
sizes.
sizes as they
So,
used to.
you know, no, that's true. But there's so many manufacturers out there. You ought to be able to
That's the
find
best
something
part,
that
'cause I've been,
works for you.
obviously,
So,
electric bikes have been around forever, but there were some things I did not want. Like I didn't want the useless suspension fork and all the pillowy, cushy things. Because
hmm
it's like get off the saddle if you're gonna hit a bump. I mean, that's my personal point of view.
yeah, yeah, indeed, indeed. I think most of them are made for the market of people who who want the cushy
I know.
things. I mean, they're already buying electric bike.
Also, I wanted
So,
something that I could where
yeah.
how can I put this? With standard bike sizes, like it's surprisingly hard to find an electric bike that doesn't have like those giant fat tires, because those are kind of hard to get like parts for, as I found out
hmm
in the pandemic.
hmm Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, that might have just been in the pandemic too. Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh,
Indeed.
interesting. So you've been using your bike a lot
So,
more lately.
a little bit. Yeah. Depends on where we're at. A
really?
lot of places aren't very bikeable, so to speak. Yeah, because the RV park is, unless there's trails or something like that, like, I mean, you're just going to ride down the street and then like, where are you going to go?
Yeah.
But the last place we were at and this place, it's pretty good. Actually, we've only been here a couple days. We haven't actually taken the bikes off the rack yet. I think we're going to soon. We've just been too busy. So, but we can bike down to a nice beach access area. I've got a little cart I can tow behind it, and it's take all our stuff with us and chairs and things like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it should be pretty good. But yeah, there's a lot of places when we're camping.
Yeah.
And we're at like an RV park, because RV parks are not always in like scenic areas, right? Sometimes we just have to stay in a city somewhere, and sometimes you just don't want to take your bike out, because you're just in a city. Like, where are you going to go? So
on a rancho in Sparks, Nevada, there's like that really seedy looking RV park right near Rail City. Obviously, no one knows what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's typical of this show, I would say. So we are just across the border. The nearest kind of big town is called Abbotsford, and it's probably 45 minutes east of Vancouver. And we're just over the border. In fact, if we were able to go straight through the forests and cross, we're probably no more than like 30 minutes from the States. It's a place called Cultus Lake. Yeah. So Cultus Lake, British Columbia. We'll be here for a couple weeks, and then we're heading up into the Canadian Rockies for a week, and then over to Calgary for a week, and then back down into Montana. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I'm sure we're we've already taken some pictures and done some a few different things, but we're still, I don't know. We're still kind of working through what we actually want to represent on places where we're at. We are inspired to do some filming here because this is probably one of the nicest, best appointed Thousand Trails campgrounds that we've been to, because a lot of the Thousand Trails, to be blatantly honest, are not super great. They're really old. Now this one is really old. In fact, our only real complaint so far is the sewer system. Normally when we pull into a place, a lot of times when we pull into a place, we're coming from another park and we're empty already, but we were coming from a week at my grandma's house where we had to just let our tanks fill up. So we showed up with full tanks, and when we show up with full tanks, I usually just hook everything up and then dump them, right? Just open them up and dump them. But I was empty in gray just to test first, and it immediately started to back up in the sewer system and come out around the thing. Yeah. Luckily it was just gray water. So that's just like sinks and showers and stuff. It's not really dirty water. And in fact, in the BLM land, you can actually trickle your gray out into BLM land if you want. It's not illegal. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it was just, we found out that it's just like a 50-year-old sewer system, and it just can't handle capacity. And this park is pretty much full. So it's just too much for it. So now we've got another plan. We're basically just not cranking it open all the way. We're just cracked it open a little bit, and that's enough to just keep the tanks cycled and empty, and it's fine. But yeah, you gotta really watch those tanks at this park, and that means I've got to go out there every day. Normally, I only have to go out there once every like 4 days and empty the black tank or so, and flush it. But now we've pretty much got to empty it every day, keep it flushed and keep it cleaned out. So yeah. Otherwise, it's a great park. Huge swimming pool. A lot of trees. It's nestled right in amongst a bunch of tall mountains, and it's just a really cool,
Interesting. Is there any
really cool
differences
place,
between,
really cool spot.
sort of RVs Canadians are favoring that you noticed, as opposed to like Americans? Oh, really?
Not really. No, it's all the same thing. Yeah, I think it has to do with what the manufacturers are selling, and since it's basically all the same manufacturers as down in the States, because I don't know if there are any Canadian manufacturers of trailers and RVs. I mean, yeah, well, I haven't seen anything with that name on it, but I see all the standard fifth wheels and bumper poles. If anything, I'd say there's more of that. There's fewer Class A RVs here than I'm used to seeing, because a lot of your residents are in Class A's or really big fifth wheels, and I'm seeing more fifth wheels and that. But
are you seeing one right now?
So yeah, there's one right next to us I was looking at, and then there's another one out the window there. There's a couple of them, but then next to us over here is a family that's here for about a couple of weeks, just like we are.
Oh, really?
And they've got a tent and a pop-up trailer. So
although the park is super old, that's the thing. Like some of those RV parks, and they're super old, I always worry about the restrooms.
Yeah, luckily we don't have to worry about that because we have our own. But yeah, I mean, they can be old, but it's but there's some parks, and this is one of those, because we looked in there just to check them out, and they keep them really clean. So it's it's really good. And like I said, they've got a swimming pool with they've even got a gym, like a little exercise facility. It doesn't have much. It's got like some Nautilus, a few free weights, like dumbbell kind of things, and a couple of machines. And then the swimming pool is really nice. It's big. You can actually lap swim in it. And it's like I said, it's really well done. And the camp store too. A lot of Thousand Trails have like some stupid little store that's like worse than a gas station for what it has. But this one is just like got a lot of RVing supplies. It's got a lot of like standard type groceries that you might need. It's got just a whole wide variety of stuff, and it's really, really impressive. And there's even a little, I don't even know what to call it, like lunch counter kind of thing where they sell like breakfast sandwiches, and then they've got burgers and pizzas and a few other things. So it's nice just to have that nearby, because the nearest thing to here realistically is at the north end of the lake, and that's it's only about 20 minutes away, but it's still kind of a pain in the ass. And if you don't want to go anywhere and you want to not cook anything, there's nice little options here. So it's nice to have that. I've never seen that kitchen option at a like with food that they're making and selling at 1,000 Trails before. I've seen stores, but I've never seen food like that. So it's pretty cool.
Have you tried anything particularly Canadian yet?
Yeah. I mean, the first day we got here, we had poutine. So, and for those that don't know, poutine it comes in lots of flavors, but it's basically French fries with cheese curds and brown gravy. So, that's what poutine is. And the place we went to was a dedicated like poutine place, and they had different kinds that you could get. So different like themes, I guess. My wife and I both got one that was like different kinds of chicken. Hers was basically just like crispy chicken nuggets on top, not nuggets, but like chunks of chicken. And I got the butter chicken one, which is like an Indian recipe. And then they've got like pork and steak, and they've got all kinds of different things and different flavors, basically. One with like a red sauce rather than a gravy. And so.
Wait, I think that is actually in my ear. I keep thinking it's you, but it's definitely not. Hang on a sec. Hate it when that happens. There we go.
Yeah, so
I kept thinking you were dying.
This is
then I realized, oh wait, it might be my ears.
This is the live show, everybody. Well, we have been getting a little bit of fluctuation in our upload speeds, even though we're not obstructed with our
Oh, really?
Starlink. It won't let me switch it to Canada, which means I think we're being deprioritized for the most part during like heavy use periods. So, I mean, for the most part, it's working great. But in some cases, I have noticed some hiccup in a few meetings that I had.
Sad that
So
he's not going to buy Twitter after all.
dude, I'm telling you, it's a ploy all along. I don't think he was ever going to buy Twitter. I think he just wanted to sabotage it, and now he's going to buy something else or roll out his own thing.
Well, I mean,
just mark my words,
taken.
that's going to come soon. So, well, you can make his own social. He's the kind of guy that wants to have all his own stuff. He wanted a car, so he made a car company. He wanted a rocket ship, so he made a rocket company. You know, he's it all started with X.com too, which was his financial services company that was eventually merged with PayPal, and then X.com was phased out. But he wants Elon Musk is who we're talking about here, if you didn't know, but he wants he wants basically to create things that are brand new, not controlled by the usual people. I mean, controlled by him, which some people would argue is not a good thing. And then you know, just different and works better. So, but of course, people question his motives. But I think in the end, I don't know, as far as billionaires goes, I mean, Elon Musk could be doing a lot different things with his money and his time, but everything he's doing is in a desire to like better humanity. And obviously he makes money along the way, but that's going to happen. I mean, you can't begrudge somebody for that. You know, it might make him a trillionaire, who knows, but also along the way, you know, you get Hyperloop, you get efficient, you know, electrical vehicles, you get, you know, space travel, you get all kinds of different things.
Before I forget, guess what
So
I just saw?
somebody's got to make
I
it.
was going up the Mammoth. I mean, it was very dark, so I can't be 100% sure, but looking at the headlights, I'm pretty sure I saw my first Ford Lightning running around. Yeah. And it looked literally just like any other Ford. If it weren't for the different headlight configuration, you probably wouldn't be able to tell a difference, which is like super cool.
Yeah. Nice. Amy mentioned that they have the mobile/RV version of Starlink, but are on the wait list for the home version. And I'm wondering, Amy, you're kind of in a rural area. Do you even need the home version? Because I'm pretty sure the mobile one you have will be just fine. I mean, it's $135 a month versus $110 for the one you're not planning on moving, but still, you probably don't need two of them. And if you just had the one, the home version, you could actually move that. That's what we have. We have the residential version, but we have the portability feature turned on, so we can more efficiently move it. But originally it was before they even turn on portability, we just change our service address every couple of weeks, and they're fine with that. There's no limit on how often you can do that. So we just change our service address and pop into a cell. And even if you can't get into that cell, like right now, we're not in a cell right now, and it won't let us move it to Canada. In fact, the area that we're in is Long Beach, Washington still, and it's still just working fine. So and I see you're using the mobile one right now at home, but unless you need to use it in two places simultaneously, like you're taking yours out into the field and you know, your family's using theirs at home, then that's one thing. But yeah, I mean, you're going to be paying over $200 a month to have two of them activated. You don't get a bulk discount.
Although that wouldn't be the worst thing.
So it just depends. It just depends. I mean, it wouldn't be, if you need it, but if you only need one, I would just only keep one and pay for one service. So
it was interesting. You mentioned, because you know, for give some people some context. Someone last week was showing me a point, and she said that someone identified it as an Elko point, and I told her that when someone says it's an Elko point, they usually means that they're guessing, because that seems to be like the default point that everyone calls everything. Like, I don't know what it is, so it must be an Elko.
Right.
And so that started asking him. So started me asking people, how far west does the Elko point extend? And you mentioned that it was mentioned in one of your podcasts, like the rock art one. Ooh.
Yeah, that's actually coming out on Friday. It hasn't been released yet, but Dr. Alan Garfinkel has written a publication with a couple other people that's published by the California Rock Art Foundation. That actually won't be out for a few months, but he talks about the pointed petroglyphs of the Coso Range. And what that means is it's like anthropomorphic human figures with projectile points as bodies. And they use these points as part of the dating method. They're also doing XRF dating, but they use these points as part of the dating method to, look at the point morphology to understand, what kind of points they knew about in order to actually draw these pointed figures. And one of the ones that is notably used is the Elko. I think it's the Elko corner notch projectile point. And so it was at least in the Eastern Mojave that those extended out.
To me.
So
because I know the Pinto point was typed like out west.
Yeah. Right. Personally, I think what we would find, as somebody who's worked all over the country, it's like you see like Clovis points are Clovis points, whether you're in North or South America, all over the place, they're Clovis points, right? Implying that the same people brought them there, which is also false, right? The Clovis point took 1,000 years to get from one end to the other, and it's or more, and it wasn't necessarily the same people that brought Clovis point. It was a technology that was shared and used and brought down. But so my question is, with basically a relatively limited number of ways to even make a projectile point, why are we still calling them by regional names? Like the Elko point that you're thinking of in the Mojave might not actually be, technically an Elko point. They might have called it something else originally, but because it's close to Nevada, they're calling it an Elko. But that exact same shape probably exists in Montana or South Carolina or New England or France. So
there aren't a lot of California textbooks, and so someone sent me a photo of a point, was asking me to figure out how old is this point, what is it, another archaeologist, because he's more of a historic person. And the thing is that I was looking through my books, and it's like you realize that California archaeology is organized into very into very strange sort of it's very difficult to describe unless you read a textbook. But basically, we have the Elko series or the Gate Cliff series, named after the shelters, and roughly what areas it extends to, and you know what you're looking at. If someone says to you it's a gate cliff, you at least can visualize it. And some of the California textbooks I've been looking at, they don't organize it that way. They basically you'll have they organize it by region, if that makes any sense. So this tradition in this area and this tradition in that area, but they have the same points, but then they subdivide it so that the points, so that the Santa Clara point, is here, and then the LA point is there, even though they're the same point and were probably created by the same people. It's it was just completely pointless.
Right.
It makes you realize some of the very arbitrary ways that archaeologists subdivide things.
Yes. It's it is crazy. And there's a lot of regionalists in archaeology, a lot of people who, early on were the ones to find stuff. And if they didn't see that type of thing in their particular area, and they didn't have a good way to, search an international database because one didn't exist, and in most cases one still doesn't exist, then they just gave it a name without any thought to, what it could be somewhere else. And, I would rather we had a new naming convention for all points, and we had a basic naming convention, and then we had a regional variance. So you could call it maybe, for example, maybe you call it a, in you say this is a late archaic corner notch Elko version, and this is a late archaic corner notch, Mojave version or something like that, and you just have different versions, and then you won't have to know 1,000 different regional names for things because of where they were found. You would just hear the first part and know a lot about it and what it looks like.
Of course, you'd also have to get
exactly where this particular one is found.
They don't know a lot about geology, and finally start calling rocks by what they actually are, as opposed to what archaeologists want to say they are.
Well, yeah, and that's a whole different thing too, right? So, yeah,
and of course,
indeed,
even
indeed.
among archaeologists, you can't even get agreement on what materials are. Oh, I
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I mean, but I'm not even talking about materials. I'm talking about the morphology of the point. You know what I mean? Like, what does it look like? What is it shaped like? Give it a generic name, and then
Yeah.
append the place where it was found, so you know everything about it at that point. Like I'd love to see.
Yeah.
We could start with Clovis points. We could say this is a Clovis point, Nevada version. This is a Clovis point,
It just seems like
Northern
archaeology is a
California.
lot
This is
of
whatever.
how can I put
So
this? Like a lot of interpretation. Kind of like the way you're shovel testing and some
yeah,
companies
well,
make
it
you want to
is.
use
It
the month
is.
cell chart, but it's like, everyone's got different eyes. And how many people don't measure the soil when it's wet,
Hmm.
which you're supposed to.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, there's a lot of variation, a lot of misinformation, and a lot of lack of education. So, but any good project should be setting that baseline for standards. If they expect you to do something and use something, and
Yeah.
you have people hired who are as needed or temporary employees, you should always go through the standard.
Oh yeah.
You shouldn't make any assumptions. What I'm saying, and you should say, hey, these are the project assumptions, and this is what we need to know about this particular area,
Oh, that
from what you're
that
going to
latter one's
find
very
to this is
handy.
how we record stuff. You know,
The company that we used to work for, WCRM,
yeah.
like they I'm not sure if they did it when you were there, but when I was there, they handed
Hmm.
out a guide and said, "This is the way we do this. This is the way we do that. This is the way, like we walk a perimeter with the
Yeah.
GPS and we make sure that we're like a couple of meters off off the artifacts and blah blah blah. And we take 100, I don't know why, but we take 100 points
Hmm.
at the damn datum." For no reason.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's nice of them to have a standard, though, right? I did notice that when I worked there, they
Yeah.
were really good at trying to standardize what everybody was doing. They weren't super great about following up and on that and
True.
making sure new people were actually doing that, because there's a lot to remember. But even so, it's a lot to follow up on as well. And I appreciated the attempt at a standardization method. Even if it could have been a little more a little better enforced. If they had time, but. Yeah, a lot of companies don't even have that.
How many companies
So
actually
it's a big step up.
QA/QC'd like site recordings, or ever looked at them again?
Right, right. Yeah, and that is something that WCRM did. They would go out there sometimes and basically double check your work
Yeah.
and give you feedback,
Yeah,
which
as
is
opposed
that's
to
the
the
only way you're going to
old-fashioned
learn.
way. Like, I mean, how
To
many
be
companies have
honest.
we worked at where
So
the feedback was to basically stare at you and not say anything until you were dropping the project and not told why.
yeah,
and then
right.
the field director's like, "This
Yeah,
person sucks. Just get me someone who doesn't
exactly,
suck." And what they mean is
exactly.
someone they don't have to talk to. I'm
Yeah,
glad that that's
yeah,
going away.
for
Thank
sure,
God.
for sure. So, I mean, yeah, slowly but surely. I mean, there's always things in practices that change when new generations come up and start leading things.
Oh,
New thinking, new ideas. Hopefully,
before I
doesn't
forget,
happen
I was
too much in
listening to
archaeology, but a little
Life
bit.
in Ruins, and I heard that I always forget the host names, but basically one of them has a bus now, and I was wondering when are you gonna do like a a co-recording with your bus in RV?
Well, it's David, yeah, and you can follow him. Just search for David Ian Howe
Ah,
on Instagram. That's his personal profile, and he actually is ethnocynology as
yeah,
well. He's really into
yeah.
prehistoric dogs and things like that in archaeology. And his ethnocynology channel
Oh,
actually
really?
has tens of thousands of followers on Instagram. I can't remember what he's up to now, but it's a lot. Yeah, and he's also on TikTok under ethnocynology, and but anyway, he recently, quit his job and his archaeology job and he was originally, I guess, restoring a van
Yeah,
to like an old mini school bus, like a shorty one, and then basically just it wasn't progressing the way that he
yeah.
wanted, and he ended up buying one that was already mostly restored and then selling the old one. And now he's finally getting on
Yeah.
the road. And in fact, if
Oh.
all goes to plan, we might be meeting him at a place
Oh,
where
really?
he's working in Montana, or
Oh,
sorry, in
wow.
Wyoming in August. But I'm not sure. Yeah, it all depends on when he's getting there and
Yeah.
when we're going through there, because we have to be in Reno by the end of August. So
Oh,
we are we might
neat.
be crossing
Oh, God, I
paths
was
out
totally
there
joking
and
about that.
staying with him for a little while. Yeah.
Sometimes I
Oh
swear,
no,
like, this
it might
country's
happen.
become
It
like
might happen.
has
So-
become an onion article. Because
Yeah.
guess what I read yesterday? That is completely unrelated but also related.
Hmm.
Like in North Carolina, there's a bill that's
Yeah.
going through the whatever they call it, the state legislature or whatever it is there, where they want to get rid of the public chargers unless unless this public also builds like gasoline and diesel pumps there. I forget, like I saw the actual number of the bill,
Hmm.
and like the bill
Okay.
also has provisions to very much discourage like public, like private chargers, and I'm like, wow, someone really dislikes electric vehicles. Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there
kind
that
of
don't
like
like them.
electric bicycles.
It
Like
doesn't
one of
make
my
any sense to me.
coworkers, I was like encouraging him to at least look at it, because gas is expensive. Like one of the reasons I'm looking at seriously electric
Mhm.
bicycles, not only because most of my bicycles are broken in one degree or another, but also gas is not cheap. Like it has not come down as much as I thought, and
Mhm.
even my car, which gets like 30 something miles a gallon, is not cheap to fill up at like $7 or $6.
Yeah. 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 No, that's a valid point. That's why we like our plug-in hybrid. Even though we only get about
Ooh.
15 to 20 miles of pure electric off of it. But that's actually not that bad. Most of the places we go, wherever we're at, is less distance than that round trip. So, we do that. And of course you have to consider where you're getting your electricity, because that has to be sustainable as well. And when we're off grid and just
Yeah.
pulling solar, then we charge the car off the sun, just by plugging it into the RV. So that's cool. But yeah, even when we're not on electric, we
Well,
get close to 50 miles to the gallon because it's a
I
hybrid.
assume it makes up for the
So,
RV. Like I imagine the RV
yeah.
cannot have been cheap to drive up. Although you probably weren't driving that far, were you?
Yeah. No, it was only about 3 hours from where we were before. We filled up down there, and now we've still got quite a bit of gas, and we're probably only going to have
Yeah.
to fill up once in Canada, and we might not even fill up all the way because I haven't actually done the conversion up here yet, but
is?
I've heard the gas up here is more expensive. So
Oh, liters.
yeah, you got to convert to
Ooh.
not only dollars, but you have to convert to liters. Yeah. So yeah, I haven't really paid attention to what the gas price is up here because I haven't had to yet. We'll probably have to fill up in Calgary once we get over there. So at least that's a
Well,
bigger
we'll
city
see.
and probably has a little bit cheaper prices. So yeah, but the only other option is somewhere in the middle of nowhere of Montana,
God.
and that's not going to be cheap.
Getting back slightly to archaeology
Yeah.
and archaeo field techs, like one of those things that just popped into my mind is that someone was mentioning that they were going to be on a
Mhm.
project where there was no fridge, and a lot of people chimed in with some really good suggestions. But that wasn't what caught my attention. What caught my attention is that people were shocked that there are actually hotels, like major hotels, without fridges, and that you should immediately like turn down projects. You shouldn't like if they don't have a fridge, you should turn it down. And I've also heard people say the same thing about camping. Like,
Mhm.
like if you're not staying at the Ritz-Carlton, then you should totally just turn it down. And I'm like, just because you work in a part of the country, like I feel like a lot of people don't understand that like there's lots of parts of the country where basically life is a little harder.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
you should never tell somebody
Yeah.
to turn down a project because of something you don't like. Just it should be a factor in their decision. If they don't want to live that way, then they probably shouldn't take that project, right? So, but then always call the hotel, because more often than not, they have a handful of fridges that they're moving around between rooms, and they'll, if they have one available, they can move one into your room, but I kind of agree. Like if you don't have a fridge and you're not already carrying around something that you can keep your stuff cold in, then you're going to be eating out every day, and that's not healthy, and nobody wants to do that. So, yeah, you really need some place to store your stuff. So I personally wouldn't take a hotel room without a fridge if I had no other way to keep my stuff cool. Or you can buy like a really good Yeti cooler or something like that, and keeps ice cold for like a week.
But I feel like fridges were not common when I first got, like when I was here for the Ruby pipeline. I feel like no hotel I ever stayed at had a fridge, unless I paid like extra money, and then I'm like, I'm not going to pay extra.
Well, I mean, I don't ever remember staying in a hotel that didn't have a fridge when I was on project. So, yeah, but that is one of the things we look for as well. Like I'm not going to get a hotel room that doesn't have a fridge. So, yeah, it's It would be really, really difficult to not have
I
one.
mean, that's why I carry my own.
That's why I've always looked for it. So yeah.
True.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, but if you don't have the space for that, not everybody can do that if they're just traveling around in a smaller car.
I feel like,
So
although they didn't mention it
Yeah.
in the thread, I've seen a lot of people say, if a project involves camping, they automatically turn it down. And I have to say, the people out there that some of the funnest projects, or at least some of those interesting archaeology, are in places where there's no hotels.
right. Yeah. Yeah. But that being said, I mean, there's a lot of people that either A,
Yeah,
or just
true.
aren't set up for camping and don't want to buy all the gear for one project, or B, maybe they have and this is hard
Yeah.
for people to understand sometimes. I was always like this.
Oh,
I've always got other things that I'm doing, right? And those other things often require internet, they require
Ooh.
connectivity, phone service, stuff like that. And a lot of times your camping projects are not going to have access to any of that. And it seems like, some people in archaeology, they're often project managers and crew chiefs. They often think that like your job is your entire life. It's your entire existence. This isn't a field school. This is my life. And I'm working for you from 7 to 3. And after that, you can go away, right? Like this is like any other job. I am going to do my own thing. And if that means I need activity, or if I got to go somewhere, well, I'm going to do it. I don't care if it's a camping project or not, So if you got other stuff you're doing, I mean, simply don't take the project if you don't think you can do that. Or if you can put whatever else you're doing on hold for a little while and you really want to do the project, then make your choice on that way. But yeah. I mean, definitely everybody's different. Everybody's got different commitments. And that is one of the failings of people in charge, is they don't realize that. They think that, well, hey, I'm full time here and I eat, live and breathe this company and this project.
And
well, literally nobody else does.
You get people who do, they still have like stuff to do. Like, dentist appointments, and they have to get their cars fixed, or they have to, they have pets, or maybe they have children, blah, blah. You can't just expect them to like give that up.
Yeah.
Although, my God, sometimes when I worked at some companies, it felt like they expected it. Not necessarily archaeology companies, but I'm not going to mention the name of the company, since people always say it's like a great company. I love that place, but I worked at one of those terrible warehouse places, and I cannot tell you the number of times I heard someone say, "Oh yeah, they like at the last minute told me I had to come in like the next day, so I had to cancel my doctor's appointment. And this is like the 8th time, and maybe I'll get to see a doctor like in 3 months." And I'm like, that's terrible.
Yeah.
It seems to like, it seems to be like,
it's not good.
How can I put this?
So
seems to be like the not to get all political, but it just seems to be like the way that Americans, that a certain class of Americans want to set up the way the jobs work.
Yeah.
After all, Mr.
I hear you.
I'm not gonna mention his name, since I don't want to be struck down by lightning. But Mr. What's his name has like rockets to fly, to fly in, and then thank his employees for like providing the money for it.
Yeah. Well, indeed. Yeah, I hear you. Well, hey,
really?
I'm a little bit double booked today. We got another
really?
podcast to record, so we got about
wait,
5
anything
more
interesting?
minutes. What else do you want to talk about? Yeah. Not really. It's the archaeology show. We're doing a timelines episode. So that'll be out on Sunday. So if you guys could just prep for that.
Anything else interesting coming out this week? Yeah.
Well, that rock art episode I mentioned is coming out Friday. The Dirt is coming out Wednesday, and they recorded an episode about the the ship, the Anglo-Saxon ship, the Sutton Hoo, or the Sutton Hoo area where that ship was found, and the Netflix movie was made not too long ago, a year ago, I think. But they're covering that, and Dirt came out. Life in Ruins came out today. But aside from that, I think it's kind of a light week, actually. Only 3 episodes coming out this week. Yeah. So I guess 4 if you include TIS on Sunday.
The Dirt was done with like sea stuff, or is this more like because it's inland, it doesn't count?
Well, it's not sea stuff at all. It's a ship that was buried, like drug inland and then buried.
Oh my God!
So
that's like my hometown. Like
it's pretty good.
The Navy base in Alameda was built that way. Yeah, there was like tons of like, there's like they
Yeah.
buried all sorts of big things like and San Francisco in general too, but in Alameda they dug a whole bunch of
Mm.
World War One destroyers out there and just like buried them. Yeah. Yeah. Which I thought was
Jeez.
cool,
Yeah,
although I
that's
don't like
crazy.
water that much, so
Yeah. Well, the ship that was buried at Sutton Hoo was kind of a Viking Age ship, and it was
Yeah.
well, I guess Anglo-Saxon technically, and it was
Yeah.
more of a burial ship, right? So
Yeah.
somebody was inside of it, buried with grave goods, and there's other, like, it was kind of in a mound, like a big mound, and there's other ones around that area that have yet to be excavated because it was on private land. But yeah, it's cool. If
Oh.
you haven't seen the Netflix show, it's not a
Yeah.
documentary. It's a movie that was made, on this, and it's actually pretty good. So
Ooh.
it's not bad. We actually
Another one
talked
to
about
add
it
to
on
the
TAS, I think,
queue,
last
just
year.
like that Anthony Bourdain documentary everyone got mad
Yeah.
at because they used the AI voice. If you remember that.
I didn't see
Okay.
it. No. Yeah.
I guess that's about
But
it for me.
anyway, yeah. So anything?
Yeah.
I mean, you seem to have
Oh,
some
well,
free time this week.
hopefully.
You going to
We'll
catch
see.
up on some video editing?
I mean, it's not like I haven't been meaning
Yeah.
to, but obviously,
All right.
I get a little done here, a little done there, and it doesn't take a little, it takes a lot to finish a video.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm always amazed that people still stay
Yeah, it
subscribed
does.
to me,
It does
but thank
indeed.
you, everyone.
So. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
All right.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's about it. So hopefully we can
Well, we'll see.
reconnect again next week and keep it going.
Edit destination.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Huh. See.